Hey JMA, welcome to a Creatives Masterclass. On today's Masterclass series, we'll be talking a little bit more about certain Adobe tools that you can use to edit videos. Lots of people get confused with the differences between After Effects and Premiere Pro. So you might be asking, what are some of the differences between each one and when should we be using each app? First, let's talk about Premiere Pro. So Premiere Pro is what you call a non-linear editor. So you use Premiere Pro to cut, paste, and trim video clips. So if you've ever used something like iMovie or like GarageBand, what you can do is you have like your clips and then you can arrange them in different orders depending on how you want to sequence your film. You use Premiere Pro when you want to add color, to fix audio, and to arrange your clips on a timeline so that you can see the order of your clips to make your film. So those are probably like the three most basic uses for Premiere Pro. For After Effects, it's something called Video Compositor. So you use After Effects for addressing fine details on one clip. So if you want to take out a small detail, or in one clip you want to add like motion graphics or motion tracking, you'd use After Effects to parang micromanage that very clip. So use After Effects for special effects, animations, and motion graphics. The other thing that I put here was keyframes, because as you'll see later in After Effects, keyframes allow you to specify how you want a certain, let's say, animation's speed or rate to be shown, like when it's being rendered and being played back. So going back to Premiere Pro, I'll show you first what the blank UI of Premiere Pro looks like. So if we were to open a new project, let's say usually when you make a video, let's just call this one a J Masterclass. Anyway, what I pressed there was clicked on a new project. So as you can probably see, when you just load up Premiere Pro, it can get overwhelming because like there are a lot of small boxes that, like, let's say your effects, your timeline will appear. So let's go over it one by one. What's probably most important when you try to start editing a video is first your project bin. So this is where you double click import media and you choose where you want to get your files. So that's important. All of your files that you import will be listed there. Program, on the other hand, is like a live view of the clip where your playhead on timeline will be lying on. So for example, let's import a new file. Let's just say going to desktop, and I'll do something like, say here. I'll import a file of an interview that I did way back. So I'll click on this file and I'll drag and drop it over to the timeline. So as you can see, Premiere Pro will also kind of fit the dimensions of the video that you imported into the program. So if your film is, let's say you shot your video clip in HD, which is 1920 by 1080, Premiere Pro will automatically adjust to the first thing you import and drag into the timeline. But if, let's say, you want to change it from HD to, let's say, 4K or to 1280 by 720, which is regular HD, all you have to do, I think, is to go to sequence settings. And if you guys can see, you can just change your frame size based on what the video you shot in was filmed at. So like most videos that are used like for cinematics, it would be 16 by 9. But if, let's say, you're shooting for something like IG stories, you just flip it around to make this 1080 by 1920. So something like that. So let's say I play this back. I'll be able to see some of the like this video played back. So another thing that you can do with Premiere Pro is something called color correction and color grading. So if you can see on the right hand side, you have something called your lumetri color, which you can also access by going to Window and clicking lumetri color. So it will just pop up on screen and be able to access things like a basic correction. You can change, let's say, the exposure of the clip. If you want it darker, you'd slide exposure to the left or brighter to the right. If you want to, let's say, change, let's say, the color of a filter, let's choose something, I don't know. Well, it's not really important what filter we use. But what you can also do is, let's say, add tint to your shadows. So if you want your darker colors to be on the more blue side, you take this cross and kind of drag it down, and you can see the clip slowly becoming more blue. Or if you want to make it more red, you drag it in the other direction. But usually the best colors that are added are like the most subtle ones. So you can also check over here like curves if you want. If you're familiar with like Lightroom and Photoshop, something like your HSL curve, which is like the hue, saturation, and luminance curves, you can make like your colors brighter, or you can also make it a bit darker in the shadows. So that's what Lumetri Color does. We also mentioned that we have like Adobe After Effects. So let's create like a lower thirds to introduce a speaker. So this might be practical if, let's say, you are going to create like a title on the bottom if you're doing a documentary, or if you're filming a vlog and you'd like to create a nice little motion graphic to make sure like people see their name, like they're introduced to the name and who the person is. Before we do that, let's go over to After Effects and I'll show you how that looks like when it's blank. So this is what the After Effects screen looks like when you open a new project. Over here on the top left, you have the same thing as your Premiere Pro like blank screen, which is your project. So in this bin, you're going to see a lot of things that you import, whether it's a video clip or a sound effect, all of them will fall under here. Here in composition, this is where you'll be able to see what you're currently editing. And here, down here is called like the composition timeline. So let's say, for example, you want to create a motion graphic. So we'll be able to animate that motion graphic here. So what we can do is create a new composition. Let's make it same as our video file from earlier, so 1920 by 1080. And we'll name this title. So this is what it looks like. This is going to be like a blank template or a blank screen where whatever you create in After Effects, you can eventually overlay onto Premiere Pro in real time. Just to refresh, so if we go back to Premiere Pro, you can see that we have a video clip here of June, and we want to create like a title to introduce him by making a nice motion graphic. So what we do is click our text tool and just create something like a text box around this size. And immediately, like, you can start typing. So let's say I can type in his name. Let's call him like June Manzo, and you can adjust the size of that. Let's change the font so that it looks a bit more professional. It's June Manzo fighting Maroons. Paragraph, line right. So basically, we're going to try and show this text onto the video back in Premiere. And the way we do that is through something called dynamic link. So if I go back to Premiere, what I'm going to try and do here is, so you go to File, Adobe Dynamic Link, and import After Effects composition. So what we can do here is look for where this After Effects composition is located. And let's save this first, leave it on the desktop. All right, so going back here, desktop should be somewhere here. There you go. You'll find it right there. And import this. Okay. So as you can see, since we imported that composition through like dynamic link, we click this, it shows up here in our project bin. And what we can do is click this and just click and drag right on top of the composition like that. So we can change this in real time since it looks kind of cluttered on the right side. So what we'll do instead, go back to After Effects, click on the text box, click this if you want to move around your text. So that's V on the keyboard. You can move this around just like that. So we'll position it somewhere, earlier it was here. If you want to move it in a straight line, click, hold shift, and you can move it in a straight line like this. Makes it a lot cleaner and like on the same level. So we're gonna click left line text, fix that a bit. And going back to Premiere, voila, that looks a lot cleaner. Or we can move it somewhere, let's say here. And it's real time, it kind of updates. Now, if you want to add a little bit more to this, you can do this in Premiere Pro or in After Effects. You can do something like, say, disable that. You can add something like a fade in to your text so that as your clip fades in, the text fades in with the video in the background. So what you can do now is to press Window, look for effects. So I think that's Shift 7. On Mac, it might be Command 7 or Shift 7. But you do that and effects will pop up anywhere. And you can click the search bar here. And Premiere Pro has a lot of different effects that you can browse through. You can look at like video effects, you can blur stuff out. But if you're looking for something in particular and already know the name of that effect, so you can do something like a fade in. You go to video transitions and click dissolve. And I think what you can do is here, dip to black. So this is a very basic fade that you can apply. So click, drag, and drag that on top of the title. You'll see it disappears. But as you can see, let's say you want to view this back, voila, fades in really cleanly. One more time with the video. It does something like that. It's a very clean fade just to introduce your speaker. So let's say we've introduced our speaker and he starts speaking. If you want to cut the text short, you click this tool up here, razor tool, or C. And what you can do is to zoom in by pressing Z on your timeline. And what you can do is press C, cut this, and wherever you want to cut it short, you can just click the rest and delete it. It disappears after around, if you can see, around 3 seconds. And you can do is add another, if we add a dip to black there, you can add another dip to black here. Let's just make this a bit longer for demonstration. Let's try using film dissolve. I think that works. There you go. Should be there. Perfect. So that's a simple like introduction kind of text that you can do through Premiere Pro and through After Effects to introduce a speaker.